Welcome to the Abroad in America podcast, the only financial podcast designed specifically for expats living in America, where you go behind the scenes with financial planner, author, and speaker Jimmy Miller to learn how to make your time in America as financially rewarding as possible. And now, here's your host, Jimmy Miller.
Hi, and welcome to Abroad in America. Today, we are going to continue the theme of taxes, and we're going to talk about the three tax buckets in America. Now, taxes in America can be quite complicated, as we talked about in several other podcasts, but understanding the three tax buckets in America is fairly simple and an easy way to think about investments and how you're taxed while you're living and working in America. Now, just about every single investment or investment account, to be more specific, can fall into one of three tax buckets in America. Now, I want to clarify that it's not necessarily the investment, it is the account. So you can buy lots of different kinds of investments, and you can buy them in different kinds of accounts. So let's say a mutual fund, for example. You can buy a mutual fund just on its own. You can just go out to a mutual fund company and buy a mutual fund in a taxable account. That is a Tax Me Now bucket. We'll talk about that in a minute. You can buy a mutual fund in a retirement account that's tax deferred. You can also buy a mutual fund in a retirement account that is tax free. So you can buy a mutual fund in lots of different types of accounts, and the kind of account that you buy it in is what determines which bucket it goes into. So the three buckets: the Tax Me Now bucket, the Tax Me Later bucket, and the Tax Me Never bucket. Okay, just three buckets, really simple. Let's talk about all three. So the first one is the Tax Me Now bucket. So in the example I just gave, where you go out and you just buy a mutual fund from a mutual fund company, or you just put money in the bank, this is considered a Tax Me Now bucket. And what do I mean by Tax Me Now? Well, you're going to owe taxes now. When I say now, I mean in the current tax year, on any investment gains or interest that you earn on that investment. So when you put your money into the savings account at the bank, at the end of the year, you make a few dollars of interest. You have to pay taxes on that interest. The bank will send you what's called a 1099, which is a tax form that shows how much interest you made that year. And you have to add that to your income on your taxes and pay taxes on that. Tax Me Now. If you buy a mutual fund directly from a mutual fund company, or a certificate of deposit, or an ETF, or you have a brokerage account, anything that you just purchase an investment in a brokerage account at an investment company that isn't set up for retirement is going to fall into the Tax Me Now bucket. And any gains that you make during the year, you'll have to pay taxes on as you go. Now, once you pay taxes on it, you don't have to pay taxes on things twice in America. So it steps up your cost basis. And then the next year, you only pay taxes on the gains again that you make that next year. Now, the second bucket is called the Tax Me Later bucket. Okay, now this is what we call tax deferred bucket, or tax deferred investing. Now, this is very popular for retirement accounts in America. And in a future podcast episode, we're going to talk about whether this is the bucket you should be using, or the third bucket, the Tax Me Never bucket, we're going to talk about here in a minute, for your retirement plan at work. But basically, most Americans use this bucket for retirement planning. So when you put money into an investment account that's designed for retirement, like your 401k at work, or your 403b at some employers at work, or an IRA, which stands for individual retirement account, this type of investment, you put your money in and you get to put it in pre-tax. So you don't owe any taxes on it currently. So if you make $10,000 at work and you put $1,000 into your 401k or an IRA in this Tax Me Later bucket, you can take that right off your income. So even though you made $10,000 because you put $1,000 into this bucket, into this investment, you only pay taxes on $9,000 of income that year. So it's a way to save on your taxes now. Now, once the money is in that bucket or in that account, it grows without taxes. So if it gains interest, if it grows in value, there's no taxes due each year on that growth until you take the money out of the bucket. Now, most of those buckets are designed to leave the money in there till you're at least 59 and a half. Now, I don't know how the government came up with this magical age of 59 and a half, but they did, and that's the magical age in America. So if you wait till at least 59 and a half, you won't have any penalties to take the money out of this bucket in exchange for that tax deferral. So if you're over 59 and a half and you take the money out, you will then owe taxes on that money at that point in time. If you take it out before you're 59 and a half, you will also owe taxes on that money, plus an additional 10% penalty for taking it out before you're 59 and a half. Okay. The third bucket is the tax me never bucket. Now, this is pretty much any account that has the word Roth on it. So a Roth 401k, a Roth 401b, a Roth IRA. This is the third bucket, or the tax me never bucket. When you put money into any investment in any of these accounts in bucket 3, or the tax me never bucket, you don't get a tax break currently on it. So if you make that $10,000 in my previous example and you put $1,000 into a Roth IRA, you're still going to pay tax on the entire $10,000 that you made. You just chose to save $1,000 of it in a Roth IRA. Now, the benefit of the tax me never bucket is kind of self-explanatory. Tax me never. You're never going to get taxed on this money. So it is now going to grow tax-free for you. The same rule for 59 and a half applies. So as long as you wait till 59 and a half, when you take that money out down the road, there's no taxes. There's no taxes on the money you put in because you've already paid taxes on that money. But there's also no taxes on any of the growth or the interest that that account has made, right? So that $1,000 you put in when you were young, by the time you get to 60, say it's grown to $5,000, that's $4,000 worth of growth and interest, completely tax-free, no taxes at all. Now, in my previous example, in the second bucket, the tax me later bucket, had you put that $1,000 in, you would have got to write that off your taxes that year and not pay taxes on it. All that money would have grown tax deferred. And when you got to 59 and a half, if it had it grown to that same $5,000 and you took it out, you would now owe taxes like you made it from your job on that entire $5,000. Okay. So which bucket is best? That's the next question most people ask. And they all serve their purpose. So the first bucket we talked about, the tax me now bucket, that bucket, its real benefit is liquidity. Okay. You're not locking your money up till you're 59 and a half. You put your money in the bank, a CD, a bond, a mutual fund, an ETF, a brokerage account, whatever you're putting your money into, it's usually completely liquid. There's no tax penalties to get your money back out. So this is the perfect place to store money for an emergency fund. Most financial planners will recommend, usually their first recommendation is that you have 3 to 6 months of living expenses in an emergency fund in case life happens, and life does happen, right? So that would be best saved inside of the tax me now bucket at the bank, in an investment fund, a mutual fund, something like that, but something that doesn't have any tax penalties on it to access the money before retirement. The second bucket and the third bucket are really for retirement. You need to leave the money there till you're 59 and a half. Otherwise, there's going to be some kind of penalty involved. Which one is better there? Well, there's a big debate on that out there, and it really takes some serious, comprehensive financial analysis to determine which is best for each person in each situation. Now, a lot of people believe that if you save money on your taxes now, especially if you're in a high tax bracket because you're in your earning years, you're making a lot of money, and you expect that down the road in retirement, you're going to be in a lower tax bracket, that it makes sense to save in the tax me later bucket, right? Why get taxed now at a higher rate when I can take the money out later at a lower rate? Now, there is some mathematical truth to that, but it is a little more complicated than that as well, especially for expats, okay? So a lot of people will actually find themselves not in a lower tax bracket later in life. So you get to retirement, and if you've done a good job saving, you might have the same income that you had earlier in life. On top of that, you might not have the deductions that you once had, right? In America, there's lots of deductions on top of the standard deduction. Home interest, you get a deduction in credits for having kids, going to school, to college or university, your kids going to college or university, putting into a health savings account as part of your health insurance program. There's all these things that can do to save you on taxes that most people don't have any longer when they get to retirement. So you get to retirement and maybe your income is a tiny bit less, but you also don't have any of these credits or deductions anymore. And you find that you're not in a lower tax bracket. Now, not only are you now not in a lower tax bracket, but the other problem is that you're going to owe taxes on that entire account. So the example I gave earlier, you put in $1,000 and you save taxes on that $1,000, but it grew to $5,000. Now, in the real world, we're going to be talking about much bigger numbers than that, right? Maybe you put into your 401k or IRA for years and years and years, and over the course of your working life, you put in $50,000 or $100,000. And now it's done really well over your 20 or 30 years of working, and it's worth $500,000 or $1 million. You're going to owe taxes on all of that money in the tax me later bucket. So you are saving some money on the taxes now a little bit, but you're going to owe a lot of taxes down the road on that entire bucket. It's kind of like a farmer having to decide whether he wants to pay taxes on his seed or his crop. So when you do the tax me later bucket, what you're really doing is you're deciding that you don't want to pay taxes on your seeds, but you're willing to pay taxes on the entire harvest or crop down the road. Now, that doesn't sound like it makes a lot of sense. And for a lot of people, it doesn't make sense. We're going to talk about whether that makes sense for expats specifically in another podcast. But for some people, it actually does make sense depending on their tax situation. They like that tax savings now. The tax me later bucket is generally the best bucket for expats, especially if they're going to be taking their money with them before they get to that 59.5 retirement age. It's kind of a no-brainer. Like I said, we're going to get a deep delve into that subject on another podcast. But in that one, you don't save anything currently, but you don't pay any taxes down the road. So that's kind of like the farmer saying, okay, I'm willing to pay the taxes now on my handful of seeds, and then I won't owe any taxes later on the entire crop or the harvest that I have later. So that makes sense for a lot of people as well. Generally, the younger you are, the more time you have to save, and the lower the tax bracket that you're in, the tax me never bucket makes the most or more sense if you fall into those categories. Like I said, it does get a little more complicated than that, especially if you're going to end up staying in America and being a long-term resident, because the different tax buckets also affect how your Social Security might get taxed one day, how the cost of your Medicare, your old age health insurance, will cost for you someday as well, if you're planning on staying long-term in America. We're also going to have another podcast down the road on all the considerations of staying in America for a long period of time, obtaining your green card or your citizenship and things like that. But we'll save that for another podcast. And you get the point that it's a little bit complicated a subject. So those are the three tax buckets in America. The tax me now bucket, designed perfectly for saving for short-term things like a house, a car, an emergency fund, other things where you need your money liquid. The tax me later bucket, which is going to save you today on your taxes, but you're just really pushing the taxes off till later. In America, we like to say you're kicking a can down the road. But in this case, you're not really kicking that tax problem down the road. It's more like rolling a wet snowball down a snowy slope, because as that account grows, you owe taxes on all of that growth as well. So it's an exponential problem for you, but you do save on your taxes now. And the tax me later bucket, which is basically anything that says Roth in front of it, Roth 401k, Roth IRA, which doesn't save you on your taxes now, but allows you to grow your money without taxes going forward. And if you wait till after 59.5, completely tax-free withdrawals as well. Okay, so I hope that helps you understand the three tax buckets in America and the three different ways that you can kind of invest your money for tax purposes. And if you have any questions, I have more information about this under the resource tab at baobabwealthabroad.com. There's lots of resources there for expats in America as well as U.S. expats overseas. So if you get a chance, jump over there and learn some more. Okay, hope you're all having a great day. See you soon.
Want even more ideas, tools, and resources on how to navigate your financial life as an expat in America? Check out all the resources on Jimmy's website at baobabwealthabroad.com and subscribe to the blog to stay up to date on issues affecting expats. Don't forget to subscribe to never miss an episode. See you next time. Baobab Wealth Abroad is an independent, client-centered financial advisory firm providing comprehensive financial planning services to expats. Securities offered through Intervest International Equities Corporation, member FINRA, SIPC. Intervest International Equity Corporation is registered to conduct business in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. Advisory services offered through Intervest International Incorporated, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Intervest is licensed to sell insurance in all 50 states and the District of Columbia.
This podcast is designed for general education purposes only and shouldn't be taken as legal, investment, or tax advice. You should seek out a qualified tax professional or licensed financial advisor to determine what is best for your personal situation.